Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Welcome, viewers, to this episode of Community Cocktails with Kimberly. I am so thrilled about this one because I think you're going to learn so much. Of course, in our industry right now, in the real estate world, it's not just finding the home, but then our buyers, because they're waiving these appraisal values, they're cringing to what is the appraisal going to come out to. So guess what? Today, I have my guest, Aaron Morrow, with True Footage here. And he is an appraiser in the DFW area, and he is going to answer all those questions that we're wondering about an appraisal and, how this process works. And so we're not biting our nails, which don't bite your nails because it's bad for you, but, all stressed out of what this value is because we're cringing that we're going to be bringing a lot of money to the table. Welcome.
Thank you.
So you're like the good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
But it's something that we have to have, and the lenders require, of course.
Yes.
And of course, again, you get that, that kind of that two-faced image to people. So, but let's explain, because a lot of people hear, okay, I have to, the lender's going to order the appraisal, and a lot of people are like, okay, it's just part of the process, but they don't really know what is actually entailed in an appraisal. So let's really educate the viewers about an appraisal and what that process actually is.
Yeah, so basically once we get the order, we contact the contact on the order. Maybe if it's a refi, then that'll be the homeowner.
Right.
If it's a listing, then we might just go through showing time and set up the appointment basically to go out to the property. We measure the property, take photos of exterior, all of the interior rooms, follow through with taking notes of finish out, updates, anything that is pertinent to the home and its value, right. As well as the surroundings, whether it's across from a golf course, right, or back into a green belt, anything that might, and then conversely, maybe next to a busy street.
Right.
So just anything that is pertaining to value with the property.
Gotcha.
So at the end, the homeowner will know what the square footage is at least. Yeah. And then more importantly, what the value is.
Yes. Well, let's back up and talk about measuring. So many of the homeowners, they see their measurement, of course, on the CAD, and it could be, X amount of square footage. And then they get the actual measurement, and sometimes it can be a positive, and I've seen it in reverse.
Very much so.
So let's talk about the process of how you go about measuring a house so they understand.
Yeah, well, there are some that still use the actual measuring tape and, right, graph paper, and then I use an iPad and a laser just for efficiency reasons. And what have you.
It's technology.
Yeah, yeah.
I use lasers to measure the rooms.
Yeah, so it makes it easy. And so it's really just good to obviously get the accurate square footage of the home.
Right.
But as you alluded to, maybe during construction, we've seen it to where they've added on a game room.
Right.
They've enclosed a portion of the attic that can now measure an extra 400 square feet. That's not reflected in county because it was done at a certain time.
Right.
So that's a huge difference.
Definitely.
So yeah, things change over time. People enclose. We've seen a lot right now with people working from home that they're enclosing portions of the garage. So you don't know that till you get out to the house. Right. That two-car garage is now a one-car, but they have. They've kind of finished out half of it for maybe an office.
Right.
And so depending on the functionality or the functional utility, right, of that area and how you get to it, it may not be considered in actual square footage.
Right.
So anyhow, you just have to go out there, and those are the things that you learn once you go to the property and actually measure.
And let's talk about that too, because sometimes people will have a porch, and what it is counted in livable square footage. Because I think sometimes people think, oh, I have an enclosed porch. Well, if that enclosed porch maybe has a window unit, it's really considered livable.
Right, and that's another big one, is that it needs to be heated and cooled off of the same system as the main house, and it also needs to be finished out as the rest of the main house. So if maybe it has just paneling and concrete floors and a window unit, then that's just an enclosed patio.
Right, because we have seen that many times, and I've had to explain that to homeowners that's really not counted as livable. In our livable square footage number, I can put it as it's an additional 200 square feet sunroom, but I can't say it's your square footage maybe was 3,000. I can't say it's 32. I have to say 3,000 plus an additional sunroom.
That's right. Yeah.
So for that,
and ingress egress is another big one. Obviously, people need to be able to get
yes,
in and out of the home,
right,
for safety reasons.
Oh, definitely. But I think it is interesting that we are seeing a lot of people doing conversions to make their homes usable. Especially they were doing that in 2000 when everything was shutting down, and now this family, for example, a family of four, that everyone maybe was working out of their home, is going to school, and now you have everyone together.
Yeah, and it's kind of doing a lot of the same now. And that might be what's driving some of the people moving within the city is
right,
that now you need that maybe dedicated office,
right,
or just another room basically to work out of, because you need to use those bedrooms as bedrooms because
right,
of your family, but you still need office space.
Correct. And especially at the time when we had kids at home, in school and everything, you wanted to have them have maybe a different space as well, right, because you didn't want them in their bedroom. You wanted them in, that more of an learning environment
exactly,
type. So you saw people converting, spaces on that. So
dining tables.
Oh, yes. Yes, I've
dining
seen
tables got used
a lot of times. Well, actually, people were like, oh, I actually get to use this room.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Yeah.
It's that room that we only use during the holidays. It is now a functioning
learning
space.
center now.
So, no. Well, back to the appraisal, let's talk about, we've talked about the square footage and how that's measured, which I think is so important, especially, for those homeowners that are maybe considering selling and, they haven't, they have more square footage now. It's important to have your house remeasured.
Sure.
So you can use that for your selling square footage, because it will definitely help you on your value. And then let's talk about things that you're considering when looking, when you're doing your appraisal of, so many people, values and what is really of importance when you're weighing, we talked about updates, how important that is compared to maybe the house next door that was, you look at two homes and maybe they were built in 1986, because that's the year my house was born, or built, it's all the same thing. And I have, one that is, been renovated, and then one that I have just gone back in time to 1986.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those, kind of, valuations.
Yeah, it's really, so as far as the valuation goes, it's really just, you're trying to compare apples to apples as best as possible.
Right.
Every home is unique, and so you're not going to find that same one, but that's what adjustments bring into, is that if this one has a couple baths that have been updated and that one does not, then you're able to, the baseline is to get them equal.
Right.
So with that being said, right now, as far as some people will say, well, what do I need to do to my home in order to get the most out of it?
Right.
Well, that depends on what you want to get out of it. If you want to be the top of the market, then you're going to have to do what, you're probably going to have to put some money in the home to update it.
Right.
And your real estate agent will help you see what the other homes that have sold at the high end what they contain and
Right.
what they've had done.
Right.
So you can't really base one home that has a pool, let's say, to
Yes.
one that doesn't, and then expect the same amount.
Right.
So with that, that's the best way is to just get with your real estate agent and find out if you want top dollar, then and if those homes have had wood floors or
Right.
the kitchen already remodeled, baths, you see a lot of that right now. But with that being said, cost of construction with materials and labor are so
Right.
high that that can put a precedent on those that have already been done.
Yes.
So if somebody's out there trying to buy a home that's original, well, first they're either going to have to do it before they move,
Right.
if they want to update it, which not every, that's on.
They need their contractor.
Yeah, you can't always get that done because you got to sell one before you buy the other. Or if you want to live through it, and that brings on a whole nother can of worms.
Oh yeah, it's a
Of
lot.
having a family with construction dust everywhere and paint fumes. So and then the extra costs. So yeah, as far as comparing the two, that's why again you really want to find other homes that have been updated with other homes, and then the opposite. But if you need to blend them, we have to blend all the time.
Yeah. Well, especially in today's marketplace where we have so much limited inventory to really, I mean, as a real estate agent, trying to find the comps, and that leads to our ever adjusting marketplace and how we're able to keep up because, we're, things are changing. I mean, I'll even use, in a 45-day period of time. So the comps that sold that were, maybe being used, and maybe you can answer this question, is, they sold for this amount, but now these people are bidding and they're going even higher than anything that, as real estate agents, we're looking, and pulling the comps to for our buyers and for our sellers. And we're like, okay, the house is, as a buyer, maybe we've lost out and we're even offering 100 over list price on it. How are you guys, I guess, keeping up with this ever-changing inflated market?
Yeah, well, again, we go off of the same MLS system that real estate agents use to list the home and sell them, which is nice.
You guys are looking at the same data we are.
We are, yeah, and we have to look backwards, obviously, because we can't use anything that hasn't sold yet. We can't predict. So, but we are able to use adjustments, market change adjustments. So if you need to look back and use a sale that's 6 months old, then you can do that. And then if the market has shown that there's been an increase, then you can apply that time adjustment to that sale to get it up to today. That's what you're trying to do, is get it to where if
what the market value is today.
If it's selling today, yes.
Versus what it was 6 months ago, which
that's right.
In this market was a lot less. So those that are asking the question, should I go ahead and buy now or wait 6 months? Buy now.
Yes, very much so.
People are always asking that question, especially, now we're seeing, interest rates, which, probably has, now that interest rates is probably helping you guys as appraisers a little bit with, cutting down some of those refis that you were, in the last, 2 years, just
we did a lot of
refi business. And so that on top was backlogging, I'm sure y'all a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's actually been a driving force for some change in our industry as well, of getting new appraisers into the industry. So they've slashed the trainee hours, the time that it takes to become licensed in half, from 1 year to 6 months, and then for certified, it used to be 2 years. Now it's 1 year. So trying to get some new life into the industry, so that I think everything is just trying to make us go faster.
Well, and it sounds like y'all are having the same, thing that, a lot, the workforce, it's the workforce, labor shortage, so, we're so much of a demand. And I know with a lot of, lenders, they would be like, they were like, I can get my side done, but it's the hopes that we can get an appraiser out in that time frame in order to meet all our deadlines because of the shortage. So again, you're bringing a good point and that's a very interesting that you guys are having, seeing that, and you guys are trying to make adjustments to get more people interested in, being an appraiser.
Yeah, and that's great for the industry overall, is to keep us around.
Yes.
Hopefully we're needed and appreciated. But I understand that you can't just take forever, because especially in this market, time is a big selling point. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, we don't want to be the ones that
Hold
have cause the backlog, even though I know we are. So yeah, we try to get out there as fast as possible, get it done, get it back to the lender so that you're not in the way. There's a lot of moving parts in the transaction, and I try not to be one of them that gets in the way. So you get it done and get it out.
No, and it's a hard thing. I mean, everyone has there's processes, and that's just one of the processes. That is part of, getting a loan. So let's talk about, I think one thing that people might be interested in learning is about adjustments on things. People sometimes have this misconception that there's just a flat number, like regardless of the house. I mean, you're like this neighborhood for this neighborhood, there's a flat adjustment. Let's, kind of talk that myth about that kind of thing.
And there are ranges, but I guess to kind of boil it down is that aspects of your home are a percentage of the overall. And so that's kind of what the appraisal is your overall value, and then all the pieces that break it down, and then each one of those get its own value to it, its contributory value. And different markets behave differently. Let's just use pools again. Not every neighborhood really values pools, so that adjustment might be less than in another area that every neighbor.
Yes.
So it's very common.
Right.
And so then you're the one that does not have one. So that's why there's. But even with that being said, you can only have so much for each, like a half bath. It can only cost so much.
Correct. It's only so much big to eat.
Yeah, the cost of construction is one, but then also the contributory value to it, and what somebody might warrant for that half bath is only going to bring a certain amount, no matter what the size or value of the home.
Right.
And so, that's why there's no flat number, but I think time would show that it's generally within a range. And just depending on what market and
price point,
whether that's $1.5 million market or a $200,000 market, things are going to contribute differently to that at a different rate.
And kind of what the norm is in that area of homes too, which makes sense because if the norm is that everything is a 5-bedroom house with a 3-car garage, and you're appraising a 4-bedroom with a 2-car, well, that one's going to have some different adjustments because that's not the norm for the consistency of that area.
Yeah, well, the appraisal is a market value, so it's what would the consensus give you for that home, rather than what one person would bring. Real estate is an emotional
yes,
business.
it is.
And so one person might give you X amount, whereas the rest of them just say, well, this is kind of what I feel like. But developers do a great job of keeping things kind of harmonious to where, like you mentioned, if most of those homes in that neighborhood are 3-car garages, and there's a reason that people want to live in that neighborhood.
Right.
And the home that they may be looking at only has a 2-car, maybe that would sway them one way or the other if they wanted to actually get that.
Gotcha.
To purchase that home or not.
And one more thing is, I think this is kind of another misconception, is the privacy about an appraisal. People, wonder, okay, I have the appraisal done. does, everyone see this appraisal? Let's kind of talk about that point of it, because of course people are wondering, see it, the cat getting a copy of it.
They asked me that.
Especially for the refinancing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And so, so especially with our business, everything is very like highly secure, let's say. And so, we can only only the lender or the person that hires us are the only people that we're able to send the appraisal to. Right. So yeah, a lot of times people will ask, "Hey, you're going to send me the appraisal?" I say, well, I have to give it directly to the person that hired me, and then they can distribute it however they see fit.
Right.
But otherwise, yes, it's really a one-on-one. But we do private appraisals as well with homeowners that just want to find out what their home is worth for whatever reason. And so then they're our direct client.
Right.
So so we're not able to share anything outside of that as well. So so yeah, whatever we do at the house and that report goes directly to the client. It doesn't get shared anywhere else. And so until it goes on MLS and then all of the other websites grab a hold of it, then it stays within that.
So those people that are, nervous on the refinance that CAD's going to get the value, don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. That's right. Well, I have learned so much. I hope my viewers have learned a lot. I've got Aaron's contact information. If you want to reach out to him, if you have any additional questions for him, or maybe you're curious about your house, maybe you've done an addition and you want to have it remeasured, he'd be more than happy to do that for you. So here's to 2022 successful real estate year.
Great.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.